So I represent the city of Woodhaven, which is experiencing and has been experiencing an issue with one of the rail crossings. I know that this is a major issue across the country in terms of blocking roads. So it's an issue because we see twofold. One, it's a benefit because I have the Woodhaven stamping plant in my district, but we also have the Flat Rock assembly plant, both of which are serviced by this rail line, and it's a vital necessity. But the impact of having this rail line is that we see massive delays at the border of Van Horn and Allen Road. And we see a very distinct disconnect between different sections of the city of Woodhaven. We have a grade separation in one section of the rail, on West Road, where we see massive economic development that's been happening over the last 10 years. And then at the other end, where Van Horn is, there is a lack of economic development, specifically cited by the delays with this crossing. I have 120 acres that the mayor, who's doing an incredible job in other parts of the city of Woodhaven, would love to see developed. And this is literally the number one problem that she says has been deterring local economic development for this area. So I'm wondering, in addition to the inconvenience to residents in this part of town, what is the explanation that I can give to my residents based on these 40-minute plus wait times where the railroad is crossing Van Horn specifically?
So specifically, this is a CN issue. There's no the railroad serving Woodhaven. It's kind of funny you should mention that because my next stop immediately after this testimony is go back to your community. We actually have a sustainability presentation this afternoon. So coincidentally, I'll be out there yet this afternoon. The situation described is very common, experienced by a lot of railroads everywhere they operate. In fact, we just had a session yesterday morning to talk about a very similar issue up in the Delray area. Again, the community was upset that the rail's trying to serve Zug Island. We're blocking people from getting back and forth. Again, like I said in my opening comments, just as people consider us when we aggravate them. That's kind of the reputation we have. And it's as our public education efforts are trying to encourage them to, take the bigger picture in mind, also recognize what we do for the economy. As we do our operations in your area, as we approach our Flat Rock yard, that is, again, a chronic issue with railroads, and especially as decades have passed by, it seems like more and more communities continue to encroach, get closer and closer to rail operations, despite the fact that those rail operations are there. So even though back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when we developed those rail lines to serve those industries that were exploding down there, and that's a bad word, that were doing well down there at the time, now, as the circumstances have changed and the economics have changed and the communities have developed, it's unfortunately putting them in direct conflict with railroads. And it's not just us. It's not just Woodhaven. It's other areas. It's pretty much wherever there are major operations, not the least of which is the greater Detroit area with all the plethora of yards and activities we have there. In terms of what to tell your residents, that is, that's a tough call. If it's something that's systemic, that can be identified as something that we're doing, operations-wise, and needs to be addressed. I'm probably your best conduit to bring it directly to our operating officers, and happy to operate in that function. But there's certain realities of railroads operating that requires movements of many cars over long, in and out of the yard facilities, very slow rates of speed, blocking crossings for extended periods of time. I do note that over the decades, a lot of communities have responded with anticipation of this, maybe foresight, maybe after the fact, hard to say, about establishing occasional grade separation and just kind of taking that out of the mix. But even those situations where there's a grade separation, built there, a lot of times, the immediate response back from the community is like, well, I need another one. I need one 6 blocks over. I need one, a few blocks over. I would have to beg for a little bit of consideration of recognizing what we have to do. If it's something systemic that I need to know about, I do need to know about. Appreciate reaching out to me, and so I can talk with my operations terminal superintendent to get an understanding of what specifically we're talking about. But up until that point, lacking a clear definition of if this is it's chronic, systemic, certain times of day or whatever. I'm at a loss for something specifically for you to tell good news, because there is. I mean, we cannot change on a dime what we do and what we've been doing for decades and decades out there.
Thank you. I think the be happy to tell you the time of his next coffee hour. He can stop by, right? And
Absolutely. And just so you know, we are in the process of working on a grade separation project. The mayor as well as Wayne County have been doing this, but it's been several years. We're about $15 million short. But in spite of that, I still need answers because we still have 40-minute wait times.